Hi learners, welcome to lesson number 14. Today we're going to discuss the accounting equation, which is A is equal to O plus L. Learners, this section was taught extensively in term 1 to you. I've also recapped your grade 8 syllabus into this lesson during term 1. I hope you recall that. Now I am going to include the credit transactions. Okay, remember, in term 1 and in grade 8, you learnt these rules off. Today, I'm introducing to you the rules for the DJ and the CJ. Okay, so let us begin. Let's recap. In my cash receipts journal, the CRJ, I told you that you always debit the bank and you credit other accounts, except when you are given two amounts in the transaction, that is the sales price and the cost of sales. For that, we effect also the cost of sales, which is to be debited, and we credit the trading stock for those transactions only. Then in the cash payments journal, we always credit bank and we debit the other account. How do we know which account to debit? We are going to get that information from the relevant transactions. Okay, so learners, we work very, very closely with the CRJ and the debtors journal. In fact, the CRJ and debtors journal go hand in hand, and the cash payments journal and creditors journal go hand in hand. Because here we are dealing with creditors, here we are dealing with debtors. Can you see debtors journal, the DJ? Here you got a debit, debtors control every time a debtor makes purchases from you, and we're going to credit sales. Except when we are given two amounts in the transaction, that is the sales price and the cost price. For that, you got a debit cost of sales and credit trading stock. Same as in here. Can you see that? Okay, learners? So in my creditors journal, you always debit other accounts and you're going to credit creditors control. Can you see that? Here it would have been debited other accounts, credit bank. So basically for these, creditors control is replacing bank. And here, debtors control is going to replace bank. Can you see that, learners? Okay, so keeping these rules in mind, as well as the debt click rule. You remember the debt click rule? The DEAD, the CLIC rule that you have been taught in class. Using all these rules, we are now going to learn how to complete the AOL template. Okay, let's go through this worked example, learners. That's below on page 14 of your resource pack. Right. The instruction is to analyze the following transactions using the table provided. The owner deposited capital into the business, 75,000 Rand. Right. What is the business doing in this transaction? It is receiving money, am I right? Because it's into the business. The business is receiving money, so it has to issue a receipt. Remember, I've also told you behind every transaction is a story. For this, the owner decided, let's put in some money into our business, the amount of 75,000 Rand. So the business is now receiving that money, which it has to issue a receipt for the amount of 75,000. Transaction number 1 is receipt. The journal we record is CRJ. Remember, in the CRJ, you always debit the bank, you credit the other. The other in this case is capital. So using my debt click rule, bank is an asset, it increases by 75,000 Rand. Capital will also increase by 75,000, 0 under L. The only time liabilities is affected is when there is a mortgage bond or creditors are involved. Okay, learners? Right. Let's look at number 2. Bought trading stock for 4,500. A check was issued. They're telling us it's a check, so immediately I know it's CPJ. So my source document is the check counterfoil, CPJ. For this, I'm going to debit trading stock and I'm going to credit bank. Can you see that? Right. What is the story behind this transaction? The business has bought trading stock for 4,500. What happened to the value of trading stock? It increased by 4,500. And trading stock is an asset, remember? So, and what happened to my bank account? My bank account is going to decrease. Why? Because we made payment out of it. So, you go to A, it's plus 4,500, means the value of trading stock has now increased in my business by 4,500. On the other hand, my bank account decreased by 4,500. So for this effect, it's going to be plus 4,500 minus 4,500. 0 under O, 0 under L. Let's double check to see. Plus minus 4,500 is equal to 0. 0 under O, 0 under L. Does it make sense? A is equal to O plus L? Yes. Let's look at number 3. Sold goods for 6,700. The cost of sales is 3,000 as per CRR. They're telling me it's CRR, so I'll use the same document, the source document. Right? Now, the other thing I have to recall, there are two amounts here. One for 6,700, one for 3,000. And we sold those goods. Remember, learners, there's a story, the story says, the story behind this transaction. When we sold the goods, our bank increased by this amount. Am I right? Yes, and sales also increased by this amount. Let's go on to number 3. It's CRR as given in the transaction. CRJ because I sold goods and money is coming into my account. Okay, so I'm going to debit the bank and credit sales. Plus 6,700, which the bank increased by, and sales amount also increased by 6,700. 0 under L. The next part to it, I've got to effect the cost of sale amount. Cost of sales is debited, and I'm going to credit trading stock. You recall cost of sales, trading stock, CRJ. Let's go back. I'll show you how to use this rules. Can you see? Debit cost of sales, credit trading stock. Can you see, your learners? These are the rules. Okay. So learners, the amount for 3,000 Rand is going to be recorded. We debit cost of sales, credit trading stock, minus 3,000. Why? Remember, it costed us 3,000 Rand for that trading stock. And we had lost out on that amount of 3,000 Rand because the products have now been sold. Okay? And the value of trading stock has also decreased. So minus 3,000 under A, minus 3,000 under O, 0 under L. Let's look at the fourth one. You issued a check to pay for the trading license 500. Immediately issuing a check is cash payments journal. Always for CPJ, it is going to be check counterfoil. CPJ, trading license, learners. You debit trading license, you credit bank. Always credit the bank in the CPJ and you debit the other. So for this case, remember money is leaving the business, so our bank is decreasing by 500 and minus 500 for under O. So it's minus 500, 0 under L. Let's look at number 5. Credit sale to Mr. Bristro for 1,500. Again, here's cost of sale, 900. For this particular transaction, there's 2 entries. Go here. It's a duplicate invoice. Remember, where's the original invoice? It's given to Mr. Bristro. Okay, so we effect it in our debtors journal. We are now going to debit debtors control. Can you see here? And credit sales. Ignore this for now, learners. Ignore it because I am not going to show you the subsidiary ledger in this year. Okay, so it's debtors control, credit sales, plus 1,500, plus 1,500, 0 under L. Remember, sales increase and debtors account is increasing as well. Okay, learners? But for the next amount of 900, we effect, you debit cost of sales and you credit trading stock. It's minus 900, 0. Let's look at number 6. A check for 800 was received from Mr. Bristro in part settlement of his account. A receipt was issued. For the receipt, automatically we know it's a CRJ. It's receipt, CRJ. We always debit bank in a CRJ. For this case, I'm going to credit the debtors control. Why? This is a credit. This is a debtor that I'm working with. Okay, and I received that amount from him. So remember, bank is an asset. It's increasing. Because I'm debiting an asset, it increases by 800. Debtors control is also an asset, learners. When we credit an asset, it means minus 800. 0 under O, 0 under L. Okay, learners? Now, just take note of these few points here. Whenever stock is sold, either for cash or on credit, 2 entries are made. Remember, there's 2 amounts given to you, so 2 entries are going to be made. The debtor's name appears in the subsidiary ledger. This applies when a transaction affecting a debtor takes place. Okay, for now, don't worry about this facture or the subsidiary ledger. Okay, learners? Let's go on to page 17 of your resource pack. Here, learners, the next example is given to you. Number 1, received an invoice from Blake Builders for equipment costing 5250. Right? For this invoice we have received, we're recording in a creditor's journal. Why CJ? Because it's an invoice. Remember, don't forget that, which means this was a credit purchase. I'm going to debit equipment and I'm going to credit creditors control. Remember our rules at the beginning of this lesson? So equipment, because I have purchased equipment, it means my value of equipment is increasing. So assets will increase by 5250. My creditors control is also increasing. Remember, creditors is a liability. So we effect that amount here under liability. And of course, 0 under O. There is no owner's equity affected here. Okay. Next one, bought consumable stores from Nooney Traders for 230 on credit. Again, invoice CJ, then it's consumable stores, credit, creditors control. Debit consumable stores, credit, creditors control. Ignore subsidiary ledger for now. When we get returned to class, I will show you that. Okay, learners. So consumable stores is an owner's equity. It's an expense item. So it's going to be minus under O. Why? According to your debt click rule, consumable stores minus under. When you debit an expense, you minus under O. Okay, creditors control plus 230. So for this case, 0 is equal to minus 230 plus 230. Can you see there? A is equal to O plus L. Right. The third one, returned equipment to Blake Builders costing 1,200 as it was damaged. Okay, this is a reverse entry. It will take place in your in your creditors allowances journal. Why? Because it's returned. Okay, so for this, you effect a debit note. The CAJ, you remember I told you you're going to reverse your entry. Here you're going to debit creditors control because we're returning the goods and we credit equipment. Okay, learners? So you go straight here. Because we're crediting equipment is an asset, it's minusing 1,200. And creditors control is debited, therefore it's minus 1,200. Can we double check? A is equal to O plus L. Yes, minus is 1,200 is equal to 0 plus minus 1,200. It makes sense. Let's go to number 4. A check was issued to Nooney Traders to settle the account to date. What was the account, learners? 230 Rand. Can you see there? The amount is not given here. You've got to trace it back, okay, to the second. So it's check counterfoil. CPJ, you are going to debit creditors control and you credit bank. Okay, remember, money is leaving our business, leaving our bank account, so it's going to minus 230. And our creditors control account is now decreasing by 230 as well. Can you see it? Okay, which means we are owing 230 Rand lesser to our creditors. On the 5th, return stationery to pens and pencils for 480 as it was not ordered. Okay. Okay, learners. First is debit note, then it's CAJ, your debit creditors control, and we are going to credit stationery. Why stationery? Because pens and return stationery. Can you see there? So stationery is credited. We go to we go to our formula. We make the entries here. Creditors control, debited, minus 480. Stationery we are crediting. It's an expense. It's plus 480. So plus 480 minus 480 is equal to 0. Can you see the learners? Okay. When creditors control is debited or credited, the creditors account is also debited or credited in the subsidiary ledger. Don't worry about the subsidiary ledger for now. When we get to class, I will show that to you. Okay, learners. Now, for your rules, remember, you can turn to page 231 of your textbook. Let's look at this activity of yours. Right. I have completed 3 examples for you. Now it's going to be your turn to complete. Right? You are going to follow these analysis of transactions as I have completed it here. You are going to do the same. Just take note. I have given you an amount column separately. I can always change the template even in the exams. You need to know what's going to be required. If I did not give you the amount column, you will have to effect the amounts under these relevant columns here. Okay, learners, because it's given to you, you write down the amounts here, and here you only enter the signs. Right? You receive 4,000 Rand from a debtor, P. Naidu. You go to your journal, we're receiving money, it's CRJ. Account debit always in the CRJ is bank. You credit debtors control. Now both bank and debtors control are both assets. So the effect is only going to take place under A. So the amount column is 4,000. The effect is only under A, that's plus minus 0, 0. You are going to do the next one on your own. Then the following one, learners. Number 3. Credit sales of 6,800 and cost of sales 4,200. Remember, 2 amounts, 2 entries. Your debtors journal, your debit debtors control, your credit sales for 6,800. Right? It's plus 0. And for the amount of 4,200, your debit cost of sales, credit, trading stock. Can you see there? Minus, minus 0. Okay, learners? Then the following one, you're going to complete on your own. Then debtors return goods worth 1,800 Rand. Cost of sales is 620. Again, here, there are 2 entries, but this is a return. Remember, it's a return, so it's an allowances journal. Okay? DAJ, your debit debtors allowances, you credit debtors control with 1,800. Your debit trading stock and credit cost of sales with 620. Now, learners, for this particular entry, you can see here, number 3 and number 5 will be opposite entries, opposite rules. Why? It is reversed. Okay, learners? I've left number 6 for you to complete, which you have to complete on your own. And just compare it to the completed examples that I've given to you here. Okay, learners? So that brings me to the end of lesson 14. I will return soon to you with lesson 15. In the meanwhile, you study hard and stay safe. Okay, learners, thank you so much and happy studying.